Welcome back. So over the last few days, we've learned about our emotions, and we learned that emotions have a purpose, and we also learned how our thoughts influence emotions, and we have become more aware of our emotions and aware of when we're having unhelpful thinking patterns. So now what? So now that we're aware, what do we do now? How do we feel better? How do we do something different? So to illustrate that, I'm going to tell you a story. So a few weeks ago, a friend of mine approached me and said, you really like the makeup. I mean, I've been using the makeup for over a year, and I really like the products, and I keep coming back for more and to try different things and to get reorders. So I'd been going to a friend for about a year. And so she approached me with the opportunity to become a unique presenter. And my immediate thought was, no way, I would not be good at that. That's not something that is a skill of mine. But there were some things that I wanted that I actually went to her to buy, and she had come to me with this opportunity. And it would actually be cheaper for me to buy the presenter kit than it would be to buy all the different items that I wanted. So I thought, what the heck? Let me just try this. But when I bought the presenter kit, I started to feel very anxious, and I wasn't quite aware of my thoughts. I just knew I felt anxious. So I stopped to think about, okay, where is this coming from? Where is this anxiety coming from? And it came from the idea that I can't do this, that I'm going to fail. And that influenced me feeling anxious. And so sometimes when we are experiencing something, we are more aware of our emotion first before we're aware of our thoughts. So sometimes we can start with the emotion and move back. So once I was able to identify the thought, I knew that I didn't want to continue feeling anxious, so I used some techniques. And so we're going to talk about some of the techniques that you can use to change your thought. So the first technique is the double standard method. So we're oftentimes a lot more kind and gracious to our friends than we are to ourselves. And so the double standard method is basically saying, what would you say to a friend if your friend was going through the same situation? Well, if a friend came to me and said that, she wanted to become a presenter, but she feels like she would fail, I would encourage her and tell her, well, you never know unless you try, and if anything, you would get a discount and you get those items that you wanted anyway, so why not try? So we can use the double standard method. How would you talk to a friend? Another way that you can challenge your automatic thought is to examine the evidence. So you kind of approach it like a detective. So you look for the evidence that proves your thought, and you look for the evidence that disproves your thought. So if my thought is I'm going to fail, or I wouldn't be good at this, I can look for evidence. So really, when I think about it, I don't have any evidence. This is brand new to me. I've never done anything like this before. I know that I'm a licensed counselor, and I know that I've wanted to share some of these techniques and these strategies with everyday people, not necessarily people who have to go see a counselor, but because a lot of those strategies are things that we can apply in our everyday lives. So this could be a really good opportunity to share that with other people and share products that I really enjoy, that I really like, and I could get a discount. So when I look at the evidence for me failing, I really don't have any evidence that shows that I would. I do have evidence that I would not. I'm pretty successful as a counselor, and I can connect with people, and I like makeup. So there's a lot of evidence that shows that I could be successful. Another thing that you can do, so you can examine the evidence and you can use the double standard technique. And another thing that you can do is to think about what's the worst and what's the best that can happen. So when you're challenging a thought, you want to think about both sides of the thought. So when I have this thought about whether or not, or if I'm going to fail in this endeavor, I can think about what's the worst that can happen. The worst that can happen is I'm out the money I spent on the presenter's kit. And really, I was going to spend more getting each item. So I'm really not out that much. Another thing that could happen is I don't get a response from other people. So what could happen if people don't respond? Nothing, really. I'm out the money that I spent on the kit, but I was going to spend it anyways, and people don't respond. But what's the best that can happen? The best that could happen is that people do come, and I can make an impact and make a difference in people's lives, and I can share what's worked for me, both in changing my thoughts and changing my feelings, and what I've worked with for myself and what I've worked with other people. But I can also share makeup, because I like makeup and it's fun to talk about. So, and I know also how I feel when I feel beautiful, and the confidence I feel when I've got that perfect wing liner, or when my lashes are on fleek. So I want to share that with other people. So that's what's the best that can happen. The worst is I'm out money on a kit that I was already going to spend more on in product, or I can really make a difference in people's lives and they can look fabulous doing it. So when we challenge these thoughts, we have to also learn how to replace the thought. So in order to kind of loosen the grip that thought has, we have to challenge it. So we can challenge it using those techniques we talked about, but we also have to replace it with a thought. And it's more than thinking positive. It's more than thinking rainbows and unicorns and everything's going to be great. You have to respond and replace it with a thought that's meaningful to you. And sometimes situations happen that are really negative, that just really do suck. And it's not about changing the thought altogether, but it's more about finding or decreasing the judgment. And so when you're going through life, sometimes things are going to happen. And when you're challenging the thought, it's not just, I'm going to think positive, but it could be that you're just decreasing the intensity, the judgment. And so when I'm looking at my experience and the thought I'm going to fail, something that resonated with me is, but what if I don't? And I could impact a lot of people, and I could help other people feel beautiful, both on the inside and outside. And I thought that was awesome. So as you go through your day today and you identify an automatic thought or an unhelpful thought, try using some of those techniques and try practicing challenging those thoughts, because you never know what kind of opportunities are out there, and you never know what could happen and what could happen differently.